The rejected mother. The marketplace was loud and full of colors. Shiny lights blinked above the stalls. Creatures from many planets shouted about their goods: fruit from Arala, fabrics from Zorn, glowing stones from the mines of Draxus. But one figure stood quietly in the middle of it all. She was thin. Her clothes were torn. Her skin was pale and marked with tired lines. Her name was Valea, and she was a widow. Behind her, two small alien children clung to her legs. Their faces were dirty. Their eyes were big with hunger. Valea bowed to the shopkeeper in front of her. Her voice trembled. "Please, sir, I will clean. I will lift. I will do anything, I just need work." The shopkeeper didn't even look at her. "No room," he said quickly and turned away. She tried another stall. "Please, I have little ones. I only ask for food in return." "Go away," the woman behind the counter snapped. "You'll scare off my customers." The next stall was worse. The owner laughed at her. "Work? You? You look like you'll fall apart in a day. Get lost, beggar." Valea didn't reply. She turned away slowly, holding her children's hands. Her feet hurt. Her stomach ached. Her heart felt like it was cracking. One child, her son, looked up at her. "Mama, no food again?" She knelt and kissed his forehead. Not yet, but soon. All around, aliens avoided her. Some whispered. Some just walked past like she didn't exist. No one wanted to hire a widow, especially not one with children. Far away, someone watched. A human man stood near a broken fountain. His jacket was dusty. His boots were old. He had a kind face but quiet eyes. His name was Mark. He didn't say anything. He just watched Valea as she went from stall to stall. He saw how she tried to smile even when she was breaking inside. He saw how the little girl cried quietly when another alien shoved her mother. And he saw how no one cared. Valea sat down near a wall. Her children curled up beside her. Her lips moved in silent prayer. She didn't know who to pray to anymore. Suddenly, a shadow fell over her. She looked up, scared. It was the human man. He didn't speak. He slowly pulled a small cloth bundle from his coat. Then, without a word, he knelt and placed it in front of her food: warm bread, soft fruit, and a bottle of clean water. Valea blinked. Why are you giving this to me?" The man looked at her children. "They're hungry." She nodded slowly, still not trusting. "Yes, but I can't pay." "I didn't ask for pay," he said. "Eat." Her hands shook as she reached for the bread. She gave the first piece to her son, the second to her daughter. Only then did she take a bite for herself. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "No one helped us," she whispered. "Not for weeks. Not since he died." Mark sat beside her, quiet. Valea wiped her face. "You must be a traitor, or a soldier, or something important." Mark shook his head. "I fix things, machines, engines, doors." She looked confused. "You are a mechanic?" He smiled a little. "Yes." Valea was quiet for a moment. Then she said softly, "I can clean. I can carry. I will work for you. Please. Don't think I'm weak. I can learn." Mark stood up slowly. He looked at her for a long second. Then he said, "Come with me tomorrow. You start at sunrise." Valea froze. "Truly?" He nodded. "You and the kids. My place is small, but it has space." She grabbed his hand, eyes wide with shock. "Thank you, human." Mark gently pulled his hand back. "Don't thank me yet. It's hard work, and the town won't like it." "I don't care," she said firmly. "I just want a chance." He gave a small smile. "Then rest. Tomorrow you begin again." As he walked away, Valea held her children close. For the first time in many days, she didn't feel alone. For the first time, someone had looked at her and not seen trash. He had seen a mother, a worker, a person, and maybe, just maybe, hope had found her again. The human's silent offer. The morning air was cold. The sky, above the alien marketplace, was still dark, touched by the soft pink light of dawn. Velia stood outside a small workshop made of rusted metal and old panels. Her 2 children stood beside her, holding her hands tightly. She was nervous. This was the place the human man had told her to come. She looked at the faded sign above the door. It didn't have any fancy symbols, just one word painted in galactic common. Fixer. Inside, Mark was already working. His hands were covered in machine oil, and sparks flew from the tool he held. When he looked up and saw Velia at the doorway, he gave a small nod. "You came," he said simply. Velia stepped forward. "I wasn't sure if you meant it." "I did," he replied. "Come in." "Close the door." The workshop smelled like burnt metal and grease. Strange tools hung from the walls. Half-finished machines sat on every table. Wires ran along the ground like vines. Velia stepped carefully, making sure her children didn't trip. Mark handed her a cloth. "Start by cleaning the benches." Velia nodded and got to work. She wiped the surfaces, cleaned the tools, and swept the floor. Her children sat in a corner playing with some soft wires and a broken fan. They didn't complain. They had eaten last night. That was enough. Hours passed. Mark barely spoke, but he watched. Velia worked with care. She moved slowly, but her hands were steady. When one of the machines sparked, she didn't scream. She just stepped back and waited. At noon, Mark placed a plate of food on the table, bread, stew, and water. "For them," he said, pointing to the kids. Velia bowed her head. "Thank you." He added another plate. "And for you?" She looked surprised. "You didn't have to." "I know," he said, already turning back to his work. Outside, voices whispered. Aliens passing by stopped and stared at the shop. "Is that the widow? She's working for a human now?" He's strange, helping a nobody like her. Inside, Velia heard the words but didn't show it. She kept wiping the machines. But inside, her heart beat faster. Would this kindness last? Or would he change? His mind like the others. Late in the day, Mark showed her a small engine. "This needs wiping carefully, no water." Velia nodded and cleaned it slowly. She asked no questions. She didn't pretend to understand. She just followed what he said. Mark watched her hands. "You learn fast," he said. She looked at him unsure. "I've had to." He paused for a moment. "What happened? To your husband?" She looked down. "War, raiders. He tried to protect us. They killed him, took everything." Mark was quiet. "I came here with only these 2, she said, glancing at her children. "No one would hire me. No one cared." He rubbed his chin. "They still won't care." "I know," she whispered. "But you did." Mark leaned back against the table. "I fix things. Broken things. Old machines. Sometimes people too." Velia blinked. "People?" He nodded once. "Sometimes." The light in the shop flickered. The children had fallen asleep in the corner, curled up on a cloth blanket. "I can come every day," Velia said suddenly. "Even early. I don't need rest." Mark raised an eyebrow. "You need rest to work well." She smiled weakly. "I'll get used to it." He thought for a moment, then he pulled out a small metal key. He handed it to her. She stared at it. "What is this?" "A room," he said. "Next door. It's not much, but it's warm, safe. You and the kids can sleep there." Velia's hands shook. "Why are you helping me so much?" Mark didn't answer right away. He walked to the back wall, checking a noisy fan motor. Then he said quietly, "Because no one else did." Tears filled Velia's eyes. She wanted to fall to her knees. She wanted to thank him 1,000 times. But instead, She simply said, "I won't let you down." "I know," Mark replied. "That's why I chose you." Outside, the sun dipped below the alien towers. The city lights turned on, glowing like stars on the ground. Inside the shop, a poor widow mother cleaned quietly, her heart filled with something new. Hope. Her first day, Valia stood in front of the mirror in the tiny room beside the workshop. Her clothes were still old, but she had washed them with soap Mark gave her. Her hair was brushed back, and her face was clean for the first time in many days. Her children were still asleep on the soft blankets. They had eaten dinner and breakfast. She had not seen them smile in days, until last night. Today was her first real day of work. Her hands were nervous. Her heart beat fast. But there was something else inside her now, a spark of purpose. She stepped into the workshop and found Mark already working. Sparks flew as he fixed a broken panel. He didn't look up. "You're early," he said. "I couldn't sleep much," Valia replied. "I wanted to begin." Mark tossed her a small bundle. Inside were simple gloves and an apron. "For you?" he said. Valia blinked. Thank you." He pointed to the workbench. "We have a delivery coming. 5 old engines from the mining fields. They'll be dirty. We clean them, then repair." She nodded. "I'll do my best." As the engines arrived, Valia saw they were heavy, too heavy for her, but she didn't complain. She rolled them carefully, one by one, and began scrubbing them clean. Her arms ached, her back hurt, but she kept working. Mark noticed. "She's trying too hard," one alien passerby said outside the open door. "She won't last a week," said another. Valia heard them. She didn't stop. At midday, one engine slipped from her grip and rolled into a wall. A loud clang echoed in the shop. She froze. Mark looked over. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "It was my mistake. Please don't." Mark walked over slowly, looked at the damage. It was minor. A small dent. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "Then don't worry," he said simply. "Mistakes happen." Valia stared at him in surprise. "You're not angry?" "No," he replied. "You're learning. You'll get better." No one had ever said that to her before, not even her late husband. That afternoon, she worked beside him. He showed her how to clean energy cores with a special solution. He let her hold the scanner and taught her how to read the levels. She made 3 errors. Mark didn't yell once. Instead, he calmly explained what went wrong, step by step. By evening, her apron was covered in grease, her fingers were shaking, and her legs were weak, but there was a small smile on her face. Later that night, Valia sat on the floor of her room brushing her daughter's hair. "Mama?" the girl asked softly. "Do we live here now?" Valia paused. Then she nodded. "If he lets us, yes." Her son peeked up. "Will the human send us away?" "No," she said, more sure this time. "I don't think he will." The children fell asleep quickly. Valia stayed awake a little, longer, staring at the ceiling. This place was not perfect. It smelled of oil. The floor creaked. The walls were thin, but it was warm. It was safe. And for the first time since her husband died, she wasn't begging. She was earning. The next morning, Valia returned to the workshop. Her arms still hurt. Her feet were sore. But when Mark handed her a list of tasks, she took it with pride. "You know," he said, looking at her. "I've had helpers before. None stayed more than a day." "Why not?" she asked. "They wanted money. Quick results, didn't care about the work." Valia tilted her head. "Then why did you choose me?" He looked at her seriously. "Because you were desperate but didn't steal. Because you were broken but not bitter." Her throat tightened. "You saw all that?" "I fix things," Mark said. "That's my job." Valia smiled softly. That day she fixed her first machine on her own. It was a small task, just reconnecting 3 wires inside a cooling fan. But when it started humming again, she laughed out loud. Mark looked over and gave a small nod. A silent praise. A silent bond. Tears in the storage room. The sun was setting when Mark handed Valea a key she hadn't seen before. "This opens the back storage room," he said. "There's old stuff in there, useless to me now. Maybe you'll find something to clean or organize." Valea nodded. "Yes, I will." The room was at the end of a narrow hallway behind the workshop. The lock clicked open with a soft sound. She pushed the door slowly, and dust floated in the air like mist. It was dark and quiet inside. The room smelled old, like forgotten time. Shelves were stacked with boxes, rusted tools, broken machines, and old crates sealed with faded stickers. She stepped inside and began wiping the shelves. Quietly, carefully. As she moved one box, something fell to the floor with a soft thump. She looked down. It was a small stuffed toy. A bear-like creature with 4 arms and button eyes. Its fur was worn, one leg barely hanging on. She froze. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. For a long time, she just stood there, staring at it. Memories came rushing back. Her daughter had a toy like this, back before the war, before the raiders came. It was the only thing her daughter had clutched while hiding in the smoke. But in the escape, it was lost, left behind in the rubble. Valea had told her child they'd find it again someday, but they never did. Tears filled her eyes. She sank slowly to the cold floor, clutching the toy to her chest. A soft sob escaped her lips. She tried to stay quiet, but the pain in her heart cracked open again. Her shoulders shook. "I tried," she whispered. "I tried to keep them safe. I did everything. But it wasn't enough." The storage room, filled with broken things, now held a breaking heart. She didn't hear the footsteps behind her. Mark stood at the doorway, silent. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He saw the toy in her hands. He saw her tears. After a few seconds, he quietly stepped inside. He didn't ask what was wrong. He didn't ask about the toy. He just sat on the floor beside her. Valea wiped her face quickly. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I was just cleaning. It's okay," Mark said softly. "I thought I was stronger now," she said, "but I still cry like a fool." "You're not a fool," he said. "You're a mother." She looked at him with wet eyes. "Do humans cry too?" He gave a small smile. "All the time. Some just do it in silence." She laughed through her tears. For a while they sat there, human and alien, surrounded by old junk and quiet sadness. Then Mark stood and gently offered his hand. "Come," he said. "Let's leave the past in this room." Valea took his hand. Her fingers still held the toy. "Can I keep this?" she asked. "It's yours now." That night, Valea gave the toy to her daughter. The little girl's eyes lit up. "It's like mine from before," she said, hugging it tightly. Her son touched the old fabric. "Did Mama find it?" "Yes," Valea said, her voice full of warmth. "Someone saved it for us." The children didn't understand the full meaning, but Valea did. Sometimes what is broken doesn't need to be thrown away. It just needs someone who sees it and believes it's worth saving. The next day, Valea worked with more energy. Her steps were lighter, her hands quicker. She still made mistakes, but now she corrected them faster. Mark noticed. At one point he asked her, "What changed?" She gave a small smile. "I remembered why I'm still fighting." That evening, Mark added a new sign, outside the shop. "Fixer and assistant, all repairs welcome." Some aliens raised their eyebrows. An assistant? That widow? Mark didn't care. Inside the shop, Valea was already organizing tools and showing her son how to untangle wires. She no longer looked like someone broken. She looked like someone rebuilding. The accusation. The day started like any other. Valea swept the workshop floor. Her children were laughing softly in the back room, playing with scrap parts Mark had given them. Mark himself was busy fixing a water condenser unit for a customer. The Workshop had become more alive, warm. It was no longer just a place of tools and metal. It felt like a home, but peace never lasts for long, not in a place where eyes still judged her every step. Before noon, a loud voice echoed from the front of the shop. "Human, something is missing from my order." It was Kretzo, a loud-mouthed alien who owned several cargo haulers. He often brought broken machines to Mark, and always expected a discount. Mark came to the counter. "What's wrong?" "The stabilizer core," Kretzo growled, pointing at the invoice. "You fixed my system, but the part I left, worth $3,000. Credits is gone," Mark blinked. "You're sure you left it here?" "I brought it 2 days ago, placed it on that shelf." He jabbed a finger toward a corner near the storage door. Valea turned from where she stood, wiping her hands. "I didn't see any core," she said softly. Kretzo's eyes narrowed. "Of course you didn't." Mark frowned. "Valea is honest. She wouldn't." "She's an outsider," Kretzo snapped. "You think we don't notice? That you let a stray widow and her brat sleep in your shop?" Valea flinched. Kretzo stepped forward. "Maybe she didn't take it, but maybe her kids did." Valea stood up straight. "My children do not steal." "Oh, really? You think we believe that?" another alien merchant said from the doorway. "We warned you, human, bringing one of them in would bring trouble." Mark looked around. More faces had appeared outside the shop, all watching, whispering. The missing core, the poor widow, the easy conclusion. A quiet storm was forming. Valea looked at Mark, heart racing. "I didn't do this." He stared at her. For a long second the world held its breath. Then he walked over to Kretzo, opened the repair log, and flipped through the pages. "You left 2 parts. Both are marked as used. The core was installed. I even have the test result here." "You signed it," Kretzo blinked. What?" Mark turned the paper to show the signature. "Oh," Kretzo muttered, pulling back. "Maybe I forgot." "You did," Mark said flatly. "Now get out." The crowd began to mumble. Some backed away. A few scoffed and turned, disappointed. There wasn't a scandal. Valea didn't speak. She stood frozen, her hands clenched. Kretzo snorted. "Shouldn't keep records like that so sharp, makes it hard to lie." He left, grumbling. Mark closed the book and turned to Valea. "I believe you," he said simply. She finally let out a shaky breath. "You didn't even question me." "I didn't need to." Her eyes filled with tears. "Why do you trust me so much?" He shrugged. "Because you haven't given me a reason not to." That night, Valea sat in the small room, holding her children close. Her daughter whispered, "Mama, why were those people yelling?" "Because some minds stay small," she said softly. "But one heart believed us." The next day, something strange happened. An older alien woman came to the shop with a broken food heater. She looked at Valea, then quietly said, "Can she fix it?" Mark nodded toward Valea. "Ask her." The woman placed it on the table. Valea opened the panel, checked. The wires replaced a fuse, and turned it on. It worked. The woman smiled faintly. "You're better than most of the boys in this district." Valea looked surprised. "Thank you." Later, another alien came, then another. No one said it out loud, but word had spread. The widow wasn't a thief. She was a worker. She was trusted. That night, Valea sat beside the sleeping children and whispered to herself, "Maybe I'm not just surviving anymore. Maybe, just maybe, she was becoming someone again." The truth comes out. For the first time since she arrived in the city, Valea walked to work without hiding her face. Her head was up, the sun warmed her skin. Some aliens still looked at her with cold eyes, but others gave small nods. A few even moved aside to let her pass. Change had started. Quietly, slowly, but it had started. Inside the workshop, Mark was adjusting a set of engine coils. "Morning," he said without looking up. "Morning," Valea replied, hanging up. Her apron. "Any jobs today?" He pointed to a dusty power unit. This one leaks energy. You'll have to take it apart and seal the cracks. She smiled. I'll try not to get shocked this time. He chuckled. Gloves are over there. As she worked, a shadow appeared in the doorway. It was Dreek, one of Mark's part-time helpers. A younger alien with sharp eyes and a crooked smile. He had always ignored Velea, barely spoke, and never helped with cleaning. Now, he stood stiff, his tail twitching. Mark looked up. You're late. Dreek didn't answer. He walked inside slowly and placed something on the counter. A stabilizer core, clean, untouched. Velea froze. Her hands stopped moving. Mark stood still. You found it? He asked quietly. Dreek's eyes didn't meet his. Yeah, in my bag. Must have fallen in. Mark raised an eyebrow. Fell in? Dreek shrugged. Could have happened. Even though you were the one who brought the shipment in and were near the shelf where it disappeared. Dreek didn't answer. Velia stepped forward. So it was you. Dreek glanced at her, then looked away. Didn't mean for trouble. Just thought I could sell it later. Mark's voice turned, cold. You nearly destroyed her life. Outside, someone had overheard the voices. Soon, 3 more aliens peeked in. Then 5. Then more. They all heard. Dreek shifted nervously. Look, I returned it, didn't I? It's fine now. Mark stepped forward. No, it's not. You gonna fire me? Dreek asked, laughing nervously. Mark nodded. Yes. Get out. Dreek opened his mouth, but then saw Mark's eyes. He left, without a word. The workshop was silent. Then someone outside clapped, another, followed, then more. Velea turned to the door, confused. Aliens in the crowd were nodding. Sorry, widow, one muttered. We judged too fast. Another one, a tall vendor, spoke up. You kept quiet, worked hard, we were wrong. Velea felt something warm rise in her chest. Not just respect, belonging. Later that evening, Mark brought her a small box. What's this? She asked. Open it. Inside was a nameplate. It read Velea, co-mechanic. Her hands trembled. This is mine? You earned it, Mark said. She swallowed hard. But I still make mistakes. So do I, he replied. But you never gave up. That's what matters. Tears welled in her eyes. But this time, they were tears of joy. I thought I was nothing, she whispered. Mark smiled gently. Turns out you're something important. That night in their small room, her daughter held the stuffed toy close. Mama, she asked, what are we now? Velea hugged her tightly. We're safe, we're home, and tomorrow, we're stronger. Outside the window, the stars blinked softly, and for the first time in many seasons, Velea didn't cry before sleeping. She smiled. Hope has a name. It was market day again. The same busy streets, the same flashing lights, the same loud voices. But this time, Velea walked through the crowd as someone new. Her children held her hands, their clothes clean, their eyes bright. Her name was no longer whispered with pity or disgust. Now when she passed, some nodded. Others stepped aside. The word had spread. The human didn't just hire her, he believed in her. And that belief had changed everything. Outside the workshop, a new sign had been placed beside the old one. Fixer and Velea, honest repairs, all welcome. Mark stood beside the door, arms crossed, smiling as she approached. You're late, he joked. I was stopped, she said with a smile. 3 people wanted to ask me about their machines. Good, he nodded. They trust you now. She stepped inside, tied her apron, and moved to the workbench like she'd done it 100 times. Because she had. But today wasn't like any other day. Today, something special was about to happen. Around noon, a small alien girl entered the shop. She held a broken light device and looked scared. Mark stepped forward, but Velea knelt down and smiled gently. First time in our shop? She asked kindly. The girl nodded. Velia took the device, examined it, and said, "Easy fix. Come back in 2 hours." The girl hesitated, then whispered, "My mom says you're a hero." Velia blinked. "Me?" She said. "She said you gave her hope." Velia's heart jumped. "What's her name?" she asked. The girl smiled. "Senna. She lives near the old factory. She's a widow too." Later, when the girl returned, the light device was fixed and glowing bright. Velia gave it back gently. "Tell your mom, she's not alone." That evening, after cleaning the counters and turning off the machines, Velia stood outside the workshop, with Mark. The stars were beginning to appear. "Strange," she said. "What is?" Mark asked. "This used to be the scariest part of my day, sunset. It meant no food, no home, just darkness." Mark looked at her. "And now?" "Now," she paused. "Now it means I made it through another day, and tomorrow I get to start again." He smiled. "You've come a long way." She turned to him. "Because of you." He shook his head. "No, I only gave you a key. You opened every door after that." They stood in silence for a moment. Then, Velia asked softly, "Why did you really help me? That first day, why me?" Mark looked up at the stars. "My mother," he said. "She was alone too. After my father died, no one helped her. I watched her struggle every day. I was too young to do anything." He looked back at Velia. "I promised myself, if I ever saw someone like her again, I wouldn't look away." Velia swallowed hard. "She would have been proud of you." Mark smiled faintly. "I hope so." Inside the room that night, Velia's children were already asleep. She looked at them, tucked in safe and warm. Then she sat at the small desk, picked up a worn notebook and opened to the first page. She wrote slowly, carefully. Day 1. I am not forgotten. I am rebuilding. My name is Velia. And I have found hope. She paused. Then she wrote a second line. And hope has a name. Human. The end.